All right, welcome back, geography students, to today's Explainer. We are going to dive right in and pierce straight through the suspenseful darkness of the world's absolute most famous geographical anomaly. You know the one. For decades, the Bermuda Triangle has been shrouded in this intense mystery, generating some of the wildest conspiracy theories known to man. But today? Well, today we're going to use the bright, uncompromising light of modern data to totally deconstruct that drama. We're going to contrast those chilling legends you probably grew up hearing with the incredibly calm, illuminating reality of mathematics and earth science.
Okay, let's take a really quick look at our syllabus to see how we'll break this down. We'll start with the birth of a myth, move right into the 1970s sensationalist fiction, explore the actual geography and environmental hazards, dive deep into marine statistics versus myth, and then wrap it all up with modern aviation and weather data. Starting right off with Section 1, the birth of a myth and its history of disappearances. So, the dark legends about this undefined, roughly 1 million square mile chunk of the North Atlantic, they actually go way back, over half a millennium ago, in fact. Back in 1492, Christopher Columbus actually noted some really strange compass anomalies and a mysterious light on the horizon while sailing through the region. But if we fast forward to the 20th century, that's when the myth really gains its tragic momentum. In 1918, the USS Cyclops, which was this massive 542-foot Navy cargo ship, just vanished. No SOS, nothing, taking over 300 men with it. And then, in 1945, 5 Navy bombers, known as Flight 19, completely disappeared during a routine practice run, leaving military authorities totally baffled. Just listen to the haunting final words transmitted by Flight 19. It looks like we are entering white water. We are completely lost. You can easily see how terrifying statements exactly like that cemented the region's reputation. It basically created this massive void of hard facts, a void that was just waiting to be filled by human imagination. Which brings us right to Section 2, the 1970s sensationalist fiction, or as I like to think of it, cashing in on fear. As we shift eras here, it's fascinating to observe how writers capitalized on Cold War-era paranoia. They effectively transformed these scattered, albeit tragic, maritime disasters into a cohesive, supernatural conspiracy. In February of 1964, an author named Vincent Gaddis wrote a piece for Argosy magazine where he said, "Within this area known as the Bermuda Triangle, most of the total vanishments have occurred." By simply drawing lines between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico and giving it that catchy, sinister name, Gaddis absolutely captured global attention and birthed a modern legend. And wow, others were incredibly quick to cash in on this new fever. Charles Berlitz published a book in 1974 that was so wildly successful it sold a staggering 20 million copies across 30 languages. You really start to see how a complete lack of empirical data naturally leads to wild and, frankly, extremely lucrative hypotheses. Berlitz leaned heavily into the extraterrestrial and paranormal, claiming connections to the lost city of Atlantis, suggesting underwater time portals, and even theorizing alien abductions of whole crews. He completely ignored the physical geography of the region in favor of a gripping, sellable story. Moving on to Section 3, Geography and Environmental Hazards, the actual physical reality. So to truly understand this region, we have to put aside the aliens, the ghosts, and Atlantis for a second and examine real Earth science. Let's start with the compasses. While 1970s theorists swore they went haywire because of supernatural forces, science simply points to magnetic declination. That's just the natural variation between magnetic north and true geographic north. There's this thing called the agonic line, where true north and magnetic north perfectly align, and it actually used to pass right through the Bermuda Triangle. Navigators simply have to compensate for this natural shifting. It's definitely not magic. It's literally just a standard navigational hurdle that experienced mariners routinely calculate for. Furthermore, we absolutely need to talk about the water itself. This specific stretch of sea is infamous for generating rogue waves. These are sudden, massive, totally unpredictable walls of water that can reach up to 100 feet in height. To give you some context on that, an 84-foot rogue wave was officially recorded by instruments in the North Sea back in 1995. A wave of that sheer magnitude can easily overwhelm a ship in seconds, dragging the whole thing down without leaving a single trace behind. Adding to that environmental chaos is the mighty Gulf Stream. You can think of it as this massive, turbulent river flowing right inside the ocean itself, moving along the western edge at 4 to 5 knots. Now, to put that into perspective, that is 300 times faster than the Amazon River. This easily explains why inexperienced sailors get thrown hundreds of miles off course. And crucially, it explains why wreckage from historical tragedies is so rarely recovered. The current simply sweeps all the evidence away before anyone can find it. All right, on to Section 4, Marine Statistics versus Myth. Let's see what the data actually reveals. As students of geography and modern data analysis, we've got to look past the sensational sci-fi paperbacks of the 1970s. We have to ask, what happens when we analyze the actual, real-world marine casualty data? Well, prepare to have all that cinematic suspense shattered by the cold, hard, and deeply illuminating reality of mathematics. When researchers sat down and analyzed a massive dataset of over 9,000 global marine incidents recorded between 1982 and 2015, the results were honestly staggering. Only 361 of those incidents, which is a measly 4%, actually occurred within the Bermuda Triangle. And shockingly, in that entire 33-year period, not a single one of those incidents was classified as a disappearance. The causes of the casualties in the Triangle perfectly mirrored the everyday hazards found in the rest of the world. And here is the absolute kicker that perfectly illustrates the truth. According to an extensive analysis of Lloyd's List shipping data, your actual danger of disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle is 90 times lower than the global average. Let me repeat that, 90 times lower. To put that into perspective with some recent numbers, in 2021, the global average showed that 1.8% of all vessels experienced some sort of casualty. But in the Bermuda Triangle, out of the 8,634 boats that passed through it that year, only 0.02% experienced an issue. The statistical reality is just undeniable. The area is incredibly safe. Actually, scratch that. It's safer than safe. If you look at global shipping loss data over the last decade, locations like the South China Sea, the Indochina region, and the Black Sea are statistically far, far more dangerous. That brings us to our final section, modern aviation and weather data. Clearing the air. Let's turn our attention upward and apply that exact same statistical rigor to the skies. When we pull the National Transportation Safety Board accident database from 1962 onward, the aviation fables completely evaporate. Seriously, most incidents are just routine takeoff or landing issues happening over in the Bahamas. Since 1965, there's been exactly one commercial injury over Bermuda, and that was just due to a JetBlue flight hitting some severe turbulence. And as for the infamous Flight 19, well, the actual transcripts show the lead pilot simply got terribly lost, something he actually had a history of doing, sadly. These tragedies overwhelmingly point to heartbreaking human error, not alien abductions. And finally, we literally just have to look at the weather. Florida has been battered by over 500 cyclones since 1851. Puerto Rico gets hit by 4 to 5 hurricanes every single year. The Bermuda Triangle sits squarely in one of the worst weather-affected regions on the entire planet. When you have this sheer volume of devastating storms passing over such a massive body of water, occasional tragic maritime and aviation accidents aren't some supernatural mystery. Statistically speaking, they are entirely expected. So what is the big takeaway from our analysis today? Well, the curse is officially lifted. Mathematically, geographically, and statistically, this patch of ocean is spectacularly boring. It is, as I like to say, fabulously unremarkable. As we wrap up today's explainer, I really want you to think about this. If the data is this clear, and if the reality is so remarkably safe and normal, why did we spend decades completely terrified of an invisible triangle? In an age where data perfectly illuminates the truth, how will you apply these critical analysis skills to the next great mystery you encounter? Keep questioning, keep looking at the numbers, and I'll catch you guys in the next explainer.